we've been joined by Ralph Reed, chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, to talk about this movie. Ralph, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Have you had a chance, by the way, to see an advanced copy of this by any chance?
Yes, I have. I went to.
It was screened in front of a lot of evangelical Christian groups, was it not?
Yeah, and I attended the screening in Atlanta. I guess it was now about a month or 6 weeks ago.
What was your thought about the movie?
Well, I think it's a deeply moving film. The acting is just terrific. This Portuguese actor that they have playing Jesus, Diego Montalbano, I hope I'm pronouncing it
Morgado, I think
correct.
is the last name, right?
Yeah, he is just terrific, and he's able to capture both the sensitivity and the empathy of Jesus as the historical figure, and also his strength and power in his divinity. And the actors who play John and Paul or Peter, I should say, are terrific. Roma Downey plays Mary, the mother of Jesus. And I think that, Mark Burnett is obviously a brilliant filmmaker. And what he was able to do was put together a Hollywood-level wide release that is both dramatically compelling, but is also true to the story and meets the threshold of generally accepted orthodoxy for biblical scholars and theologians. That's not an easy thing to pull off.
No, it's not.
Well, you mentioned Mark Burnett, and of course he's known probably to American television audiences as the producer of reality shows like The Apprentice and Survivor, I think is also his. But he also was the producer of that History Channel series, The Bible, which was so big last year. It's interesting. You say that it's biblically correct and it pleases in terms of the accuracy. Is that necessary when you're creating a film? I mean, isn't it okay to take certain artistic licenses when telling a story? I bring that up because I know that the film Noah is now under fire,
and it's a bit more controversial, right?
Yeah, it is, and I'm not familiar with the poetic license that was taken in that film Noah, so I can't speak to it. But I can tell you that it's now hard to believe that it's been this long ago, but it was about 14 years ago that I did a little bit of consulting as a friend to Jeffrey Katzenberg and DreamWorks when they were doing The Prince of Egypt.
Oh, right.
And, in order to make a biblical story work as a dramatic film, you have to take a little bit of poetic license. There are certain aspects that are not recorded in the Bible that you have to fill in. For example, if you take the story of Jesus, we really don't know exactly what happened because there's no recorded episode from the time he's about 12 years old until he begins his public ministry at the age of 30.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a gap there. And in the case of Prince of Egypt, they tried to fill that gap in the case of Moses. And to my knowledge, they were never criticized for that because they remained true to the biblical story as far as we knew it. But I think they did clear the threshold with Son of God. I think this film is going to do extraordinarily well. I think it's going to have a huge impact on the culture, not just on the faith community, but on a lot of other people.
Wow.
We have the rise of what sociologists call the nuns. They basically say they're not a member of any church or denomination. It's now about 20% of the population. But I think they're intrigued by and fascinated by and want to know more about the person of Jesus.
Isn't it interesting, though, Ralph, that we have this desire and this hunger for this kind of stuff, and yet so few of these kinds of films actually get made? Every time they are made, they become, huge hits.
Oh, huge hits. And there was a time in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s, whether it was the Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur. I mean, these were the largest these were Hollywood blockbusters. I mean, Ben-Hur helped make Charlton Heston a global star, which was, of course, a biblically based story. And I think it's going to come back. Look, over 100 million people worldwide tuned in to the Bible series, which I believe was on the History Channel. It was the highest-rated dramatic program on cable television in the last 7 years. And the highest-rated program ever on the History Channel. So, look, Hollywood may not completely understand faith, but they understand the numbers and they understand business. There is a huge audience for family-friendly and faith-oriented programming, and I think Hollywood is belatedly discovering it.
Ralph Reed is our guest. He's the chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. We're talking about this movie that opens tomorrow, Son of God. And I want to ask you about that title because, there have been plenty of movies about Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth and, actually Jesus Christ Superstar I kind of like because I like musicals. But this title, Son of God, that is a faith-based statement to proclaim that Jesus was the Son of God beyond a historical figure. Does that sort of project exactly how faith-based this film is beyond just a historical film?
Well, I think it's true to the story, and more importantly, it's true to who he said he was. The thing that's interesting about Jesus as an historical figure is he doesn't leave a lot of room for ambiguity. At the time, and this is all recorded in the film, there were some people who said that he was crazy, that he was a lunatic. There were other people who said that he was a prophet, somebody who could tell the future and predict the future. There were others who wanted to make him the king, who thought he was a political figure and a messiah in the political sense. He said and asserted he was none of those things. He said, I am the Son of God. And that is the boldest assertion that has ever been made by an historic figure. And every one of us, whether we want to or not, has to wrestle with who he was and whether or not who he claimed he was true.
So C.S. Lewis would be happy with this film. It answers the Lord Liar or Lunatic question right there in the title. Well, Ralph Reed, thanks for joining us.
Yes, and great to have you on, and I think it's going to be a huge
it will
hit.
be. I'm looking forward to it.
I think it'll be a big hit. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Ralph.